everyone, and welcome to GRUFFtalk, where each week we take a deep dive into all the ways we can feel better, look better, live better, and age better. Thanks to all of you who have sent in your questions and ideas for future episodes. So many episodes of GRUFFtalk have been created because of what you have sent to me. So please keep your ideas, questions, and comments coming. You can send them to grufftalkpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to me on social media. I'm connected to an awful lot of you. Today's episode was such a delightful surprise because my guest, who's been on the show before, Dr. Doris Day, who is a board-certified dermatologist based in New York City, she came on to talk about the skin microbiome. But this conversation led to many other things, like really, really interesting things, talking about food and products to use on the skin, intermittent fasting, increasing the health span, and so much more. So I really urge you all to stay with it until the very, very end, because Dr. Day is always such a wealth of positive and actionable information. Dr. Day also referenced a lot of really cool things, and many of the links are in the show notes. I tried to gather as many as I could, including info about her newest book called Rebooting the Biome. We talk a little bit about it in the episode. And if you've been listening to GRUFFtalk for a while, and I hope you have, you'll remember that Dr. Day has been on the show a few times already, talking about things like hair loss and lots of other skin-related concerns and challenges we all have as we get older. And we put the links to those episodes in the show notes as well, so you can maybe check them out after listening to this episode. So slather on a little sunscreen, definitely go with at least 50 SPF. Maybe pop in your earbuds and get outside for a little walk and get some smart info about your skin's microbiome and lots of other things too to look amazing at any age. Stay tuned. Today, my guest is Dr. Doris Day, a New York City board-certified dermatologist, and she's written several incredible books about skincare at every age, ageless beauty, and there will be links to all of them in the show notes so you can check them out. Now, when she's been on the show before, we've talked about some really important things that happen to a lot of us as we get older, especially as we go through menopause, like hair loss. And there was also a great episode where Dr. Day answered our questions about skincare and how to look beautiful and really everything that you need to know about keeping your skin looking great. So check those out if you haven't yet seen them or heard them, but not until you've watched this one, everyone. So today we're going to take a very deep dive into something that I find intriguing, but also very mysterious because I really don't understand it. But Dr. Day is going to explain it to us. And it's all about the skin microbiome. So welcome back to GRUFFtalk, Dr. Day.
Thanks for having me back. It's always great to talk to you.
It really is. We always have a lot of fun. And you do help me to keep my skin looking, I think, really pretty darn good for my age. So, okay, let's start from the very beginning. What is the skin microbiome? Like, explain it to us.
The skin microbiome is all the microbes, mostly bacteria, that live on the skin and that impact our skin in very meaningful ways. So it's bacteria, maybe sometimes yeast, sometimes mites. And the balance of those microbes has a powerful impact on how your skin ages. It can affect the inflammation of your skin. It can affect acne breakouts, psoriasis flares, eczema flares. So the biome changes over time, and as we age, that biome becomes less diverse. We need to, and in disease states, it becomes less diverse. For example, if you look at somebody with eczema, then what we see is that you would get overgrowth of a certain type of bacteria, but we don't look at what's missing. So we give antibiotics to treat that bacteria sometimes, but if we looked at what the normal biome would be in that person, we would see that C. acnes bacteria, which we blame for acne, is missing. And now we're learning that there are different strains of these bacteria and these microbes, and that one strain can be really good. Like even when you look at something as basic as acne, but we're always trying to annihilate everything. We give antibiotics orally, topically. We use benzoyl peroxide and things that are going to knock out all the bacteria in our skin, and yet people still break out, right? So what we are realizing is that there's different strains of these C. acnes bacteria that could be driving acne. Some are more inflammatory than others. And if we change that balance, even just change the strains without using any antibiotics, we can now rebalance the skin, improve acne, and with that comes improved hydration of the skin, more even skin tone, smaller pores, less redness, all those things that our skin wants. So by understanding and studying the balance, not just of the skin cells and the layers and the barrier function, but of the microbes that are living in the skin and contributing to that skin health, we can make such important changes without using harsh drugs.
So you did mention a few minutes ago that the skin microbiome should be more diverse. And as we get older, it gets less diverse. That's like I think a normal progression of aging. Also, not long ago, I had an incredible expert on the show about the gut microbiome. And he basically said the same thing, is that that's something that they realize now, that the gut microbiome becomes less diverse and you want more diversity. You want a jungle in there, basically. And I guess you want that on the skin.
That's where I was trying to sort of go with the diversity part. It's not a random jungle. It's very specific microorganisms that should be there. There's some things you never want on your skin that could be harmful to it, right? That could be causing problems and throwing your normal biome off. But we do have a normal diversity of our biome of microorganisms that reside there normally and provide some benefit. They're either what's called symbionts, like they get along with us. We give them some food. Like if you look at the C. acnes, again, they eat the oils, they eat the sebum that our glands make in the follicles. And from that, their breakdown products become things like propionic acid, short chain fatty acids, things that work as antioxidants, as retinol, as vitamin C. So your skin, if you feed it right, will naturally make something that works like a retinol in your skin as your skin needs it, as opposed to applying it exogenously from a tube and hoping that it's the right concentration and your skin doesn't react to it. So a lot of the stuff we're trying to create for the skin or recreate for the skin can do itself if we just have the right balance of microbes.
Or you talk a lot about that in your new book, which I love. I'm going to hold it up for everyone. For those of you watching, not just listening, I'm holding up the book. And as I said, you can get all the information about the new book by Dr. Day and her co-author, Dr. Hitchcock. It's called Rebooting the Biome, but I love the subtitle. It's a long one. I'm going to read it though. How properly caring for your skin biome can do more for your health and beauty than any skincare ingredient on the market. So of course I have to ask you, Dr. Day, because of you, thank you to you, many thanks to you. I started using Retin-A shortly after turning 50 when I first started to see you as a patient. And does this mean I no longer have to use the tube if I follow all the instructions in your book, which I'm holding up again? Great book, everyone.
You have it. Thank you. It's such a great point. We still need to use those products because over time our skin becomes less efficient and the biome does change where it's not as readily able. It's kind of like taking a probiotic or eating the right foods. Our gut can only do so much because our body is exposed to so many insults. Your skin is exposed to UV rays, pollution, stressors. What you put in your body affects your skin.
Wildfires.
Oh my God, we had our mini apocalyptic kind of moment here in the last couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrifying, but what that does to your skin is also horrifying if you could see it under a microscope. It does accelerate skin aging. You see things like skin dullness, increased fine lines, discoloration, and even skin cancer if you're exposed to enough pollution. And if you wear a lot of makeup, that makeup can hold the pollution in your skin. If you don't wash the makeup off at the end of the day, before bed, that can become toxic and accelerate aging of the skin. So properly cleansing your skin is important. But then we go to the problem of over cleansing. So properly cleansing is important, especially if you wear makeup. but being careful in how we cleanse so that we don't wipe out the biome and have it have to restart itself. And we don't overstrip so that the water balances off and the nutrients for the biome are knocked out. So even just how you cleanse your skin is really important. My co-author, Dr. Thomas Hitchcock, has a PhD in genetics, and we've known each other for, I don't know, close to 15 years now. I call him a nerd, but in the most complimentary way. I like to think of myself as a nerd in that way also, in that he really loves the science and he's a very serious researcher and scientist. So he came up with this company that created these microbes, which are skin microbes, skin probiotics, really, true skin probiotics, because they're C. acnes. They're actually a strain of C. acnes that are good. And then he sold that to another company, and now it's a product called BioJuve that are skin probiotics. So I'm not related to the company, but that was one of the drivers of the book, is his understanding of the basic science of microbes and how we understand these different strains. And mine is the clinical relevance of having seen patients every day who are doing everything we tell them to do, and yet they're still having these issues. And the problem I have with evidence-based medicine is that what evidence-based medicine is, it says, well, we have a question. We're going to try these different things and do blinded, placebo-controlled trials. So one group gets the treatment, one group doesn't. The people who are evaluating and getting treated both don't know if they're getting the real thing or not. And so the end result is honest. But the driver of those are companies that are making something that they have to sell. Right? So if you wanted to do an evidence-based trial on something like eating healthier or not overwashing your skin, nobody's going to make money off of that. So nobody's going to do a proper evidence-based trial. So when my patients came in year after year after year and said, you know what, when I eat these foods, I break out more, we would say, well, we don't have any evidence to show this. And we can't seem to prove it in science because nobody is doing that study. Nobody's really looking at it. And so we would say, well, if eating greasy food doesn't make you break out. Grease doesn't go to your skin. And that's true. Some people think if they eat pizza, the grease is going to actually end up in their skin. That does not happen. But sugar does. Sugar causes a whole inflammatory cascade, starting with your gut, ending up at your skin. And we know that that inflammation causes problems. So we know that what you put in your body, what you eat, and what you put on your skin does have an effect. But unfortunately, a lot of it is us as physicians who have been seeing patients for a long period of time, having our opinions on this, but not being able to necessarily point to evidence-based trials to say, yes, this is a fact.
Right.
Because there's nothing to sell on the other side. Just telling our patients they'll look better if they make these changes.
Right. Really interesting. I'd like to know, and I'm sure the audience does too, what is the real connection between the gut microbiome, the health of it, and the health of your skin? You just referenced sugar. Eating sugar, as we now know, can really wreak havoc on your gut microbiome. So what is the real connection? Can we assume that if we take good care of our gut microbiome and feed it all the right foods and do all the things anti-inflammatory and so on and so forth that we know to do that could work, will that impact your skin? How clear is that connection?
As you're talking, you're making me think. I was smiling because my dog was barking, but also because I'm thinking about how in so many other languages, when you say, like in Farsi, if you want to say you're the love of my life, you say it's like you're the love of my stomach. It's really the love of my gut. It's like the gut is the center of the body in so many ways.
They call it the second brain.
It is. Well, and we're finding that it could be related to Parkinson's, that things that happen in the gut affect every other organ system. And that's related to the microbes in there. The microbes in the gut, that they are the ones that are going to digest food. Something interesting I heard about that was that when you eat sugar or highly processed foods, a lot of it gets digested really early. And so the calories get into your system super fast and before they get to go through the gut. If you eat foods that are higher in fiber, they can have the same amount of calories, but your gut biome eats that too. So you're not just feeding yourself, you're feeding trillions of microbes.
Right.
And they do consume some of those calories, and they convert some of those calories into antioxidants and other elements that are so healthy for your skin. So it's not that a calorie is a calorie and that if you eat these high sugar foods, it goes immediately towards inflammation. It's a very complicated pathway of what it turns on and what it turns off. And as we age, we can become more sensitive to it. Now, some people genetically already have some genetic hits where they already have some mutations or some changes where they're less likely to absorb some nutrients, or their gut biome may not be as efficient.
Right.
And that's why even things like fecal cell transplants, where you take somebody with a really great gut biome, you take their poop and you give that to somebody else, you can actually affect somebody else's biome. And we're in the infancy of understanding how this works. Now, some people, and I've seen it on social media, some very prominent doctors who have big podcasts with many millions of followers were saying things like, well, if you fix your gut and you fix what you put into your body, you won't need skincare. That will never be true. Mm-hmm. So you may always need that retinol or that retinoic acid prescription or over-the-counter product, because the beauty of the skin is that you can affect it internally, and you should, from the gut and the brain. But we can affect it directly from the outside as well. Right. And what a missed opportunity to not also apply things to our skin that's going to nurture and feed it and help it stay optimized directly.
Absolutely.
In areas
they're complementary. I mean, I personally couldn't
right.
imagine just focusing on my gut microbiome and say, okay, my skin is just going to have to take care of itself based on what I do from my gut microbiome. I know I'm helping my skin by focusing on my gut microbiome, right. But I would never stop taking my Retin-A, just so you know, or putting on my daily, usually twice a day, SPF. Like that's just never going to happen. And moisture, I mean, on and on and on. Could not agree with you more. So it's important, I think, that everybody kind of remembers that. But let's talk for a minute about the skin microbiome changing over the years. I mean, you referenced early on about the diversity, gut and skin biomes get less diverse. We want more diversity, but as you pointed out, the right kind of diversity, agree. But does it change a lot, especially for women who have gone through menopause? Does menopause accelerate? Does it change it in different ways? And then what should women, specifically postmenopausal women, be doing now that they maybe weren't doing earlier?
One is proper hydration. Yeah, menopause does change everything, because estrogen and estradiol is such an important element of our skin. And actually your face has one of the highest concentrations of estrogen receptors. So I think doing bioidentical hormone replacement should be the standard of care for the vast majority of women. There's always going to be exceptions. It's not for absolutely everyone. Nothing is. But unfortunately, it's not discussed enough. It's getting a little bit more voice from physicians, but many physicians even don't understand and aren't educated in proper hormone replacement, and too many women are turned away who would be good candidates for it. Something I'm really passionate about.
As am I, and as is Dr. Margaret Noctegal, who is my frequent visitor on the show when we talk about anything menopause related. And I think
but it affects the skin.
Absolutely.
I mean, you lose 30% of your collagen in the first 5 years post menopause.
Absolutely.
And it's not going to be just affecting your skin. Now, what happens too is that your oil glands become less productive, less food for the microbes, because that's what they're eating. And some microbes may depend on it more. And then it changes the overall environment of the skin. So you're knocking out some essential microbes in that, just through that, less C. acnes and of the right strains of C. acnes.
And I just want to remind everyone that even if you have hit that day where you are now officially postmenopausal, where you haven't had a period in 12 months and you're there is still time for you to go on to HT. As Dr. Margaret, as we call her, has often pointed out, that there is a window. I mean, the window is finite, it's not infinite. There's a window. And you really want to take advantage of that if you are possibly a candidate for HT. So I just want to throw that out there. Always like to remind people about that. So I wanted to ask you also, we covered a lot of things like about the relationship between the gut microbiome and the skin microbiome, got all that. And, what women should be doing for their skin. I think if there was a little checklist, I think we could, HT should always be looked at as a possibility, of course. And also Retin-A, huge fan.
Yes.
What are some of the other things on your checklist?
Okay, so definitely sunscreen. It's not too late for sunscreen because the UV rays are always breaking out collagen, increasing something called matrix metalloproteinases, which certain types break down collagen. So you want to stop that as much as possible. It doesn't matter how much or how little damage you have. Wearing sunscreen, using sunscreen consistently, and being sun smart, staying in the shade in the middle of the day, wearing a hat, sunglasses. Carried a sunbrella. I was just in Singapore, and I carried a sunbrella everywhere, and other people did too. Like, yeah, you know what? I'm willing to look a little bit odd to not age if I don't have to. So yeah, so that helps. So it's more than sunscreen; it's being sun smart, and then antioxidants help also. There's now exosomes is a whole new area of skincare where exosomes are really just delivery. So they're extracellular vesicles that carry things like growth factors and stem cells. So the source of the exosomes is really important, but there's some really good ones on the market now that can deliver very powerful antioxidants and growth factors for the skin. Retinol. And I'm starting to think about with retinol now of pulsing it, whether it's 5 days a week or using it for 9 months, taking a month off. Just understanding the process of what they're doing, because there's something called abundance mimetics, where they're creating an environment where your body has everything it needs to repair. And it's like when you've done all your work and you're well rested, now you want to go and like reorganize your house a little bit and like do some cleanup stuff, right? But there's limits to that too. So the question is, are there limits to how long we should use Retin-A before taking a break and using it again? And that's something I'm just beginning to study because nobody has the answer yet. And I'm sort of thinking back over patients using it for years. What am I seeing in their skin? How can I optimize the way that they use it? But we're always learning, always evolving as we understand the basic science.
Well, personally,
better.
I'm going to be really interested to know about this because that is to me my like number one and number one, two number ones, SPF and Retin-A. Every single night for one, every single day for the other. So I will be really interested. And I remember you and I had a conversation not that long ago. I think you had talked about some influencers on Instagram that you had seen about doing Retin-A 2 nights and then not the third night, or like there's a term for it, right? But
skin cycling.
Yeah, exactly. Cycling. And you at that time were like, why would you want to do that if it's working for you? But it's interesting.
Well, why would you do that in that way?
In that way. So I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, no, they don't know either. We don't know. Nobody knows.
They were just doing it, I think, for content purposes.
Yeah, exactly. And there's cycling, there's sandwiching, there's like a whole bunch of things. Right. But there are things that we do cycle because you can build tolerance to them. And I think their thinking about cycling was about building tolerance, which may be a component of that. I don't know. I think we just have to see, but I don't think we just have to see. The sandwiching idea is where you use a moisturizer, then a dry, irritating product, then a moisturizer on top. And like a lot of this stuff we've been doing for a long period of time, we just call it something now, so it sounds new and different. And
can I hate to interrupt you, but I do want to ask you that because you had recommended that to me a long, long time ago. Not when I first started using it, but like somehow, I don't know, a few years ago. And that's what I've been doing. Does that in any way, if you put a light moisturizer over your Retin-A, does it diminish the impact of the Retin-A in any way? Do you think?
Theoretically could a very little bit, because if it hasn't settled in, you could be diluting it somewhat.
Okay.
But the reality is if you can't use it at all, then you're not getting any benefit. So if you're diluting it a very, very little bit, you're still getting plenty of benefit. And we don't know, this is a one dose for everybody thing. So everybody doesn't need the same dose. And if you're too dry, that may be too high a dose. So moisturizing it over it, even under and over it, and slowing down the absorption and making it just a little bit more dilute or slower absorbed may give you greater benefit, and certainly greater benefit than if you can't use it because it's otherwise too irritating.
Right. And also for many people, when I've recommended it, because I said my doctor recommends it to me, I've used it to really great result over these years, that I said there's a period of time that you have to just get through where your skin will be irritated until your skin gets a little bit more acclimated. So, I mean, that has been years ago for me.
But that's true. That's called retinization, where when you use it for long enough, then your skin kind of gets over that and it gets better. Now, the question with cycling is, are you ever going to get to that retinization if you keep cycling it? Or are you going to keep getting to irritation?
Good point.
And then right? So that's a problem. And then the other question is it good to get past it? Like, when you get past it, is that when you should stop and get to it again? So I don't know. There's no real studies on this. We have studies on what retinols and retinoic acid can do for the skin, but a lot of those studies are short-term studies. I want 10-year studies of what happens when we use it over 10 years. A lot of the medications that we have, even if we look at fillers, the studies go for 6 months, 9 months, a year, and then we say, okay, well, that's how long it lasts because this is the benefit. But I see in practice, in reality, that these products can last for 10 years sometimes. They don't go away at the end of the study. The data doesn't stop when people stop the study. The data continues. And if you keep using these products, we don't know really what happens at 5 and 10 years after using a retinol.
Yeah, like we have the Women's Health Initiative ongoing study, WHI, which of course became quite famous when that whole HT, hormone therapy study came out in 2002. We all know that, but it's an ongoing thing. And is there no such ongoing study, you're saying, to focus on things like that?
No.
Botox and filler. In fact, but there have been some articles I've seen in recent times about how studies have shown, like following women, I guess, who get regular Botox, say crow's feet and the like, how the lines do get softer, and apparently by repeating, cycling perhaps, if you will, every 4 to 6 months, that the lines do in fact get softer. Like there is a long-term benefit. So yeah, you're right. We need these long-term studies to really follow people and see how these protocols work long-term. Absolutely.
Yeah. We don't know. With Botox, my thing with Botox is that my observation was, if you do Botox where you're purposeful about it and you're relaxing specific overused muscles, then you're redirecting the energy and people will age better. The issue that I see is that people do it cookie cutter, where they over Botox areas like the forehead, which is the only elevator of the brows. And then what you end up with is lower brows, faster aging, and heavier eyelids. So I always think with anything, you have to go to the source. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you making that expression, and address that? So when it comes to like the skin and the biome, and even what a retinol can do, we can ask the question, what is it doing? What happens when it does it over a long period of time? What do we know about how the skin ages, the skin biome, the skin elements that could be affected? And this goes down to a molecular level, looking at enzymes that could be turning on or off collagen production, skin, things that might promote the matrix metalloproteinases and other things that in the short run may go in one direction, but if you keep doing it, may actually go negative, because too much abundance can be a negative thing. And if we always give the skin that sense of abundance, what else is it not doing that it should be doing that could be protecting itself? Like, you need abundance, but you also need times of stress.
Right.
And if we're always providing the abundance, not actual stress, but the perception of stress in order to trigger certain elements, that's called hormesis. When you create the perception of stress, but not the damage of stress, you can actually turn on certain elements that are very productive and very healthy. So we need that balance. And I don't know if we get it by using retinol consistently without breaks, but nobody has the answer. So it's something that I'm starting to ask and investigate. So I'll let you know when I
Yes,
know.
please do. And you'll come back on, you'll share with all of us. But it's really fascinating because that is the direction of medicine and healthcare overall, right? Is very personalized and, not one size fits all, and, really looking at the details of all of this and looking at some long-term studies as well. Yeah, it's fascinating. And I will be really happy to have you back on. Just give me and on all of us just some tips on what can we really do? I mean, we did cover a few things: SPF, retin-A, probably not eating a lot of sugar. It's so funny. I was thinking about something when you were talking about sugar, eating sugar, and then like the body absorbs it quickly. And I was thinking, yeah, because I'm in marathon training again. And like that's, we need that when you're running a marathon, you need like a quick sugar hit. So it does get up to,
Yeah.
you don't want that in everyday life. Like you don't want that. That's like not your everyday kind of eating, everybody. But when you need that quick.
I'm so proud of you for the marathon. I can't believe you're doing it again. You're amazing.
It's crazy.
That's
Every year I say it's going to be my last one. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think you did say that line. I remember that.
Right? It was last year. I said, yeah, maybe it'll be my last one. Yeah. And well, here I am again.
Oh my goodness. All right. So tip, things that are microbiome
Give us the best
friendly.
tips. Like what can everyone do starting right now, today? What can they eat? What can they put on their skin? Just anything. And sleep, even though that's a whole bigger topic and I've done episodes on that. That is super important for skincare. I see the difference in my skin.
Oh yeah, in a day.
But go ahead.
And my Aura Ring verifies it for me. When I sleep, while I wake up, I check myself. Oh yeah, it was good. And then my ring is like, yeah, 91. You did great. So
I have to ask you something. I know you've been wearing that for a while. Do you also wear like an Apple Watch, and do you see a difference? Like, is one better than the other when it comes to?
The Aura Ring is definitely better.
Really?
I have the Apple Watch. I don't wear it so much now. I'm going to get the Whoop and compare the Whoop to the Aura Ring. And then my next present to me is the NutriSense. I'm going to get the glucose monitoring and sort of watch and sort of see how I feel. But it is very personalized. And of course, these things come with an expense. Everybody can't do it. One thing that you can do that's super easy at home is just change the order in which you eat food. So even if you're going to have something sweet, have something savory first, because that will blunt the glucose, the insulin spike. And that will help. So even just changing the order in which you eat is helpful. Drinking a little bit of water with some lemon juice in it first will also help if you're up for that. I like that.
Me too.
You can do apple cider vinegar too, but I don't like the apple cider vinegar. I can do water and lemon juice.
You know what I've been drinking? It's unsweetened, so it's not sugar, but it does have some carbs.
Kombucha?
No, the tart cherry juice.
Oh, I love that.
Anti-inflammatory properties.
Tart cherry juice is great.
It's great. And I take a cup of that, sometimes 2 every day. It helps supposedly with muscle pain, joint pain. And
it's so tasty.
Yeah, it's delicious.
I love tart anything.
Yeah, delicious.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good, but you wouldn't want that necessarily as the first thing if it has some sugar in it. You'd want to have it towards the end. Yeah.
Correct.
So that's one thing. So just changing the order. Obviously, green leafy vegetables, colors found in nature. And unfortunately for me, Cheetos is not a color found in nature, so that does not count. No. It's on my terminal list. Like if I'm ever terminal, that's what I'm going to go to first. Like they go, oh my God, you're terminal. You're not going to get over this. I'll be like, that's fine. I'll go eat my Cheetos and Doritos now. So we all need something to look forward to, even if we're terminal. But other things to do. So one is, yes, less alcohol, less processed foods, less sugar. It doesn't have to be never, but less is good. More of the good stuff, green leafy vegetables, more plant-based diet. Health, if you're going to have meats and animal-based products, just good quality ones if you can do that. And then for what you put on your skin, shea butter, hyaluronic acid, salicylic acid is biome friendly. And then don't layer too many products because all the products have preservatives and not all the preservatives are biome friendly. So even if the ingredients are, if there's a lot of different preservatives and you're layering preservatives, I'd rather have one bottle with more things because it's still only one set of preservatives than 5 single things that have 5 single preservatives.
Good point. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. You mentioned shea butter. Let's go back to that. I've never heard you. I don't think I've never heard you mention shea butter. Talk about that.
Shea butter is great for body moisturizer. It's been around forever, but it is good for super dry skin. So when you talk about perimenopausal, things like shea butter and ceramides, ceramides are natural to the skin, and you can have deficiencies of it. People with eczema have issues with their ceramides. But as we age, we have issues with that as well. And all of that is important for the skin biome. So looking for things that are going to create a healthy skin barrier is going to support the skin biome.
What about coconut oil? Is that the same, or do you think not as good?
Coconut oil can be pro-inflammatory, so I would be careful with it. It has some good properties, but I don't think it's the panacea that we all kind of hoped it would be. I do like coconut milk in my coffee, so that's good. I think
I'm a heavy cream girl.
Is quite good. Yeah, that's good. I mean, it gets the job done. But yeah, I think whole milk, going back to more whole things is better. Yep. And coconut can go either way for me.
You know, one thing, getting back to food, one thing and I agree with everything you said above about what to eat and some things to kind of like you don't have to stop, but maybe slow down on, like the alcohol, sugar, and overly, too many carbs. But one thing I've added a lot of into my diet recently is beans, a lot of beans. And I added to a lot of vegetables, little red pepper flakes, maybe a little rice. It is a complete protein. So it's high in protein, high in everything that's good for you, especially if you want to go have like a meatless dinner or lunch. Just want to throw that out there.
I love that. I think that's great. And then I read somebody else and he talks about lectins in some beans and tomato skin and tomato seeds. Yep. So it's like at some point I just go, oh my God, just go back to the Cheetos.
I know it can get a little overwhelming.
Excuse to go back to the Cheetos.
And by the way, my thing is French fries. Like that's it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a savory gal. I'm also, I could forego sweets. I really could and be happy. But if I had to give up cheese and crackers and French fries, that would be hard.
No, I'm not. I don't give up French fries. I at one point said that I would, but I haven't yet. So I'm not giving them up.
Why
but
should
chips
we?
I've had to give up. No, French fries are fine, but potato chips are really just a vehicle for oil. But that kind of goes to the type of oils, like really trying to avoid seed oils as much as you can. That's really helpful. And that's something that I think is easier to focus on. You just have to educate yourself to look for the seed oils on the label and try to avoid those. A lot of times you think you're buying avocado oil, but then it's contaminated with seed oils. And that can do a number on your skin and your gut. We're learning more about this. It's like we go in one direction and we go so far over to the plant-based everything. But then now we kind of go back to, wait, butter might be even better than that. So we're back to some butter again. Yep. And
I tend to use more olive oil when I'm cooking and the like if it calls for that kind of a fat. But, use butter on.
Coconut oil is good for cooking as well.
Yeah, I've never used it. I just stick with flavor. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. But I think that's just like a personal thing.
Yeah.
And you're right. We shouldn't go overboard as Americans tend to do. Just like everything in moderation. Listen, I had in a recent episode, I had a 102-year-old doctor. She's known, Dr. Gladys McGarry. She's known as the mother of holistic medicine. And she's 102 and still seeing patients. And she went through the whole, her whole program of life and living and what she eats and what she does. And she said everything in moderation. She eats basically everything. And here she is. And that's what I say too.
I think that's brilliant. And we're learning that there's genetics and epigenetics. So your genes really don't dictate how healthy you are or how long you're going to live. Your genes are a guide and a trend, but what we do in our life, the exercises, what we put into our body, how we manage stress, how we see the world, all of that affects our overall health. And now we're moving towards something called health span over lifespan.
Correct.
So it's not just how long you live, but look at her at 102, still working, still thinking, still contributing.
Yep.
All of that is a great health span. And that does come from mostly a consistent tend towards the healthier. And things like intermittent fasting, so powerful for longevity and health, not just longevity, but longevity and health.
Listen, I just want to just point out something about that because I find that absolutely fascinating. And I found it fascinating in 2016 when I first discovered it with Dr. Walter Longo, who's the head of at University of Southern California's longevity.
What a great story.
Great story. And and he's been, I think, almost single-handedly responsible for bringing the whole intermittent fasting concept to America. in the last few years. And so I read an article about him, and I managed to get an interview with him for my last book. So I have a little section in that book, my last book, about intermittent fasting. Here's the thing, though, and it really works because, like you, I'm not a doctor. You are, but I do love science, and I like to see some proof. And so I did the experiment, his experiment that he gave me to do for purposes of the book. And I took all of the blood tests beforehand and measurements. 3 months later, after the program, I did a second set of blood tests and measurements, and it was incredible. I mean, sure, I lost weight and my waist measurement, okay, but it was really what was happening on the cellular level that was, of course, most intriguing to me. And that's what's behind the whole longevity aspect and health span aspect, as you put it, of intermittent fasting. However, and this is the thing that I'm grappling with personally, is I've also come to understand that people, as we get older, right, especially, midlife and beyond, we do need more protein earlier in the day because muscle loss is a thing, bone loss is a thing, muscles help support our bones, et cetera, and so on. And so by doing intermittent fasting, it could wreak a little havoc for people who are 60s and over. So that's just the one caveat that I'm still investigating. I'm still trying to get the best research on. So because I always like to recommend to my readers and watchers and viewers and everything, what is the best thing to do to age better? So that's where we are with that. But we know it does work.
Yeah, there's a couple of things around the intermittent fasting. Ideally, like I stop eating at 2 in the afternoon. So if you can be an early day eater and not an afternoon eater.
You don't eat anything after 2 p.m.?
On most days, no.
Wow.
Because my dad was an anesthesiologist. So back when I was growing up, all patients who would have surgery would go to the hospital the night before, and then they'd have surgery the next day. Of course, everything is outpatient now, but back then that was the norm. Everybody was in the hospital the night before. So we would have dinner at 4:30, and then we wouldn't eat after that. So my body from childhood is used to eating early. And then my dad always said, you should never eat after 8 o'clock at night. So we did sort of the intermittent fasting from growing up just as a routine. And if you start shifting the time in which you eat, I can be with people who are eating and not eat and not even have any desire for food because you start to look forward to the not eating. So you can still get the protein. But what we're learning is that there's something called mTOR, and that's mammalian targeted rapamycin. And a lot of aging goes around inhibiting mTOR. So mTOR is important for development. So when you look at babies growing up, it's very important for them for every level of development, that complex has a lot of influence, but it needs to turn off at some point. Otherwise it becomes negative. It's like that too much abundance, too much development becomes degenerative, right? That's when you start to get arthritis and skin wrinkling and aging and cancers and also all sorts of other things. So when you fast, you are affecting mTOR. You start to inhibit that because that's when your body goes into stress mode. The problem is that as you get older, that inhibition doesn't work as well. So it's something to think about. Like if you find that you're intermittent fasting and you're not getting as much of the benefits as you thought, it might be somewhat age related as well. Yes. And you might have to supplement it with other things too. So it does come down to this individualized medicine where it's still really good to do intermittent fasting. But the whole idea of Prolon, what Walter Longo came up with, he kind of made it a little bit easier with some of the things that he devised. Right. And I try to do every day a minimum of a 13-hour fast. And if I can get it to 16 or 18 hours, I'm happier. Once in a while, I'll get to 24. But even if you do nothing but a 13-hour fast, you're getting the benefits. That's the minimum. And I just have an app on my watch, on my phone. It's called Zero. And I just push start when I start. And my dad, the way he used to go into intermittent fasting when I was growing up is we'd be sitting at the dining table. He decides he's done eating. He'll brush his teeth. So you can come up with whatever system you want. And once we would say, Dad, have this. He goes, nope, I brushed my teeth. That means like that he's done eating. So for me, it's pushing start on my app. And once you hit that line where you go, I'm done eating, then you're done. And actually, it's easy to do. So if you can do 13 hours, you will see benefits in your skin pretty quickly. I would tell you that if you give up
Yep.
sugar just for a week, just lower your sugar for a
Yep.
week, take a picture of yourself before and take a picture of yourself after a week, you'll see a difference in your skin, in the hydration and the tone and the resilience. The beauty of skin is that when you make positive changes in either skincare or diet or sleep, you'll see it in your skin so fast, like sometimes
So
within a day or
fast.
two.
One of the things that Dr. Longo, back in 2016, 2017, when I was doing this with him, that he told me to do as like a little test, not only the blood test and the measurements, body measurements, but also a day or two, 3 days into it, for anyone who's watching, but I'll explain it for those who are only listening, take the top of your hand, pinch it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Pinch it a little hard, and then you'll see how quickly your skin goes back into place. And that is a sign of hydration or lack of hydration. And then, of course,
Right.
if the point is that by being on the intermittent fasting program, your skin is more hydrated, to your point. And it was true. I mean, it's true for sure. If we do all of these things, I mean, it's so amazing now. We're so lucky, Dr. Day, that we're living in this age of more knowledge, more tools, more
Yes.
personalization to use all of these available tools. And then which we didn't even get into, because I feel like you and I need to have like a whole nother episode to talk about all this, but like some of the, which you and I have discussed offline a few times, but some old medications that have been around for a really long time that are
Yes.
now being used quite effectively to increase the health span and the lifespan, like metformin.
Yep. Yep. Well, that indirectly inhibits mTOR. So that's one of the reasons why it might affect longevity. It affects insulin resistance. Those are the two things.
Yes.
It's mTOR and insulin resistance as the two things that point to acceleration of aging. And that's why we organize the order in which we eat foods. We try to minimize sugar when we can and alcohol. We drink more water, exercise. All of that goes around minimizing insulin resistance and also helping with mTOR inhibition as we get older. You'd never want to do that in a child, but as you get older, in your 20s and up, it might make a difference.
Right. And like I said, just kind of putting all of this together, it's a little complicated, but again, personalization, maybe working with a trusted healthcare provider can help you, the listeners, to come up with your own personalized plan. But again, it's super important to me for you all to recognize that you need to make sure you're getting enough protein. And not only enough protein, because I think Americans probably get enough protein, but when you get the protein earlier in the day, apparently is quite critical as we get older. So I just want to, again, throw that in there. So, wow, we covered a lot more than the skin microbiome. However, it all comes back to the skin microbiome. I mean, it's all connected.
And a lot of this is in the book.
Oh, yeah, for sure, which I'm holding up again. Really great book. And the link will be down below in the show notes so you can click on and check it out. Before we let you go, Dr. Day, and I know you'll be back because, well, we have too much fun and we have too much to talk about.
Yes.
So this has to be continued. Can you just give us like 3 key takeaways that you want everyone to remember from this conversation today?
One is to respect your skin biome and think about what you're putting on your skin. Do I really need this? What is it doing for me? And just be purposeful about it. 2 is, and to see your dermatologist for guidance. That's really important. 2 is understand that what you put in your body affects your skin in powerful ways, and to be purposeful about that too. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as trying to get, like you mentioned, more protein earlier in the day, intermittent fasting 13 hours a day if you can or more, and then changing the order in which you eat food and seeing the difference in your skin, staying hydrated, get enough sleep. And 3 is the mind component, which is really thinking good thoughts, being mindful, learning to meditate, taking slow, deep breaths. The power of one single slow, deep breath for cooling the mind, relaxing your jaw, affecting facial expression is so powerful. So if you can, every hour, or at least last thing before you fall asleep and first thing when you wake up, before you even open your eyes, a slow, deep breath in through the nose, always through the nose.
Always
and
through
then
the
out.
nose. Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Day, thanks for bringing that up. I actually just a few weeks ago, there was an episode with an expert on breathing. I mean, who knew there was such a person? But there is, and there's more than just him and Patrick McEwen, and he's in Ireland.
Yeah, fantastic.
And we talked for an hour about proper breathing and what it can do for you and how dysfunctional breathing, what that can do to you. So everyone, if you haven't yet watched or listened to that, please do. Super
listen
important.
To that one. I learned so much from him.
Oh, yeah. He's fantastic. He's just fantastic.
Yes.
So thank you again. I look forward to seeing you again and always have so much to talk about. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Gruff Talk, please do 2 things. First, share it with all your friends and family, and subscribe to Gruff Talk wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, so you never miss a single episode. Until next time, remember this: we can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Talk to you soon. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.